I asked Kelsey this morning, I looked at your LinkedIn, you've worked in education for a long time, what's the most important role you want me to tell people about? And he said, I'm a dad of 3. So that just tells you where Kelsey's heart is. But it is true, he has worked in education in Houston for 20 plus years. He brings a lot of heart and a lot of experience. He is currently the Senior Director of Growth and Sales at OneGoal, and he is today going to tell you, if you don't already know, what's your why? You're welcome. Oh, you need this.
This is the mic for the
camera. And the clicker. Okay. All right, good morning. Yes, I guess it's still good morning, everyone. My name is Kelsey Griffin, and I am glad to be here with you guys this morning at the Texas College Bridge Conference. As I look across the room, I realize we have teachers, administrators, district staff, counselors. We have the whole spectrum here. This is my type of crowd. So I taught for 13 years mostly in Humble ISD and Spring ISD. For anybody that's not familiar with where those districts are located, they're a little bit outside of the Houston area in Region 4. I actually want to share a story with you about my teaching days. So it was a Friday before spring break. I'll never forget. I woke up, I got dressed, and I headed to work. Average morning. I stopped at my favorite coffee shop, and I ordered a big cup of black coffee. While I was at the drive-through window, it's like a presence came over me. This presence was clearly saying, Kelsey, start your spring break right now. So, am I the only person that has left for work and also contemplated calling in? So, half of me was calculating how many hours of sick time I still had left at this point in the year. But the other half of me was thinking about my students, especially one student by the name of Caleb. I have to give you a little context about Caleb. Caleb was a great kid, amazing student. He was just a little bit misunderstood by teachers and students. He was that kid that would come into the classroom and put his head on the desk. He wouldn't engage in curriculum activities. He would not interact with other students. He was just there. In all of his classes, except for Mr. Griffin's class, except for his science class. And I always wondered, is it the fact that he just likes science, or is it the dynamic within the classroom that makes him a little bit more comfortable to share in the science classroom? So I asked him one day, I said, Caleb, I love the way you show up for my classroom. I love it. But I also know that you don't show up this way in your other classes. And I asked him, what's the difference about my classroom? And Caleb told me, Mr. Griffin, I don't know if you know this or not, but you're the first male teacher that I've ever had. And he also said, I feel safe in your classroom. Caleb went on to say that he didn't have many male figures in his life. So at this point, my heart is getting full. But he didn't stop there. He also said, and Mr. Griffin, you're dope. So I had never been called dope before. So not only is my heart filling up, but my head is starting to get big. So that's a whole nother story. We're going to rewind back to me sitting at the drive-through window. I'm waiting on my coffee. I'm contemplating on how many hours of sick time I have. And I'm thinking about Caleb. And I'm also thinking about the other Calebs that trying to figure out how they would feel if they get to my classroom and they see that this dope teacher is not in the classroom. I'm not going to tell you what I did, whether I called in or I went to work. That's not the moral of the story. The moral of the story is that the Calebs of the world, that's my why. That's why I continue to come back and teach science year after year after year. That's why I approach the work that I do now the way that I do. as relentlessly as I do. I want to show you guys a quick 3-minute video. And the first time I watched this video, it really helped me understand why I approach the work the way that I do. And I hope that you guys get the same thing from it.
How do I know? A lot of people, when they think of the phrase, how do I know, they always want to put the what behind it. How do I know what I'm supposed to do? The question that you really should ask is, how do I know why I'm here? Because when you know your why, your what becomes more clear and more impactful. If you know, like for instance, people know that I do comedy, but that's what I do. My why is to inspire people to walk in purpose. So I can do comedy, I can write books, I can be in a movie, because all of it is motivated by my why. In fact, I have a new web series out called Michael Jr. Break Time. We probably just did the 6th episode. It's on YouTube. So every single Wednesday at 3 o'clock, we drop a new episode on YouTube of Michael Jr. Break Time. What it is it's me. I travel around the country, and I do stand-up comedy, in case you didn't know. And in the middle of my comedy set sometime, I'll stop and just talk to my audience. And we've been filming this, and it's pretty cool. So we're in Winston-Salem. I'm going to show you a clip from Winston-Salem. And I'm just talking to this guy in the audience, and he tells me that he's a musical instructor at a school. So I was like, all right, you're a musical instructor. Can you sing? Let me hear you sing a song. So this is what happened at the last episode of Michael Jr.'s Break Time. Check it. So you're a musical director. Cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me get a couple bars of like Amazing Grace. Can you do the first part of that? Go ahead.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me.
Wow. That bro could sing. You know what I'm saying? All right. Now, what you give me the version is if your uncle just got out of jail, you got shot in the back when you was a kid. I'm just saying, let me see the hood version real quick, if you know which version I'm talking about. Just see if that exists. Let me see what you got.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I was lost, but now, right now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Okay. Here's what I want you to catch. The first time I asked him to sing, he knew what he was doing. The second time, he knew why he was doing it. When you know your why, your what becomes more impactful because you're walking towards or in your purpose.
All right, so as educators, we have to ask ourselves, what's our why? What's that problem that wakes us up and gives us the drive to go and attack the responsibilities that we have on a daily basis? First, we have to figure out what the problem is. I can tell you one problem that we have. We currently have a degree divide in America. Only 22% of students that come from the lowest quartile, economic quartile, are completing their post-secondary pathways, compared to their peers from the highest economic quartile that are completing their post-secondary pathways at a rate of about 67%. Why is the gap so big? And I have a better question. Why would our students that are so dedicated during their junior and senior year of high school, they're so dedicated to do college research, submit numerous college applications, submit FAFSA or TASFA, go through FAFSA verification, submit college application fee waivers, go through all of these enrollment steps, spend enormous amounts of time, money, effort to get accepted into a post-secondary pathway just to tap out in a year. Why would our students do that? The company that I work for, OneGoal, published a long-term qualitative study that focused on the why behind students in this particular target group, why they were tapping out of their post-secondary pathways without completing them. The results of that study provided 4 challenges that students contributed to them not being able to complete these pathways. Those 4 challenges provided a legitimate argument that post-secondary readiness needs to be incorporated into the school day with the same intensity as math, science, English, etc. We'll get back to that in a minute. Let's take a look at the 4 challenges first. These are common challenges. We probably know this. 71% was from financial challenges, social emotional challenges, academic challenges, aspirational challenges. Students that contributed financial reasons to them stopping out of their program stated that the lack of college knowledge caused them to not be able to finish their program. They contributed implications associated with adding and dropping classes, causing disruptions to their financial aid, requiring them to end up paying out of pocket for their room and board and tuition. And this simply was not feasible. So the only thing that they saw that they could do was stop out of their program. What does that do to the motivation of an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, 20-year-old? Should they have known? Probably. Did they know? The next reason, social emotional reasons. The major contributing factor for this was lack of parent knowledge. I want to read a quote. One thing I would definitely say is that it also starts with the parents. I wish OneGoal had a resource where you could reach out. A lot of our parents don't speak the language either. With my mom, she was really busy, but she always said she would appreciate a little reach out. Academic reasons. The major contributing factor here was under-resourced high schools. Another quote, it felt like the academics I received in high school weren't on par to everybody else's. So I would go to basic college general education classes, and everybody's skill set was at a 10, but I'm at a 6. It would cause me to feel like, well, what's the point of me being here if I have to play catch up? Professional aspiration-related reasons. The majority of students interviewed for this study were first-generation college students, and they reported their motivation for obtaining a degree was to make their family proud. While this promise to family can be a strong motivating factor for staying in school, many students spoke openly about the pressure of being a first generation and internalizing failure when circumstances led them to stop out. The average student is receiving about 38 minutes of post-secondary advising while they're in high school. That's simply not enough. We have to figure out how we can continue to increase the amount of time students are getting for advising of post-secondary pathways in high school. What could that look like? It could look like a quality enrollment framework. It's not enough for us to just fill seats at institutions of higher education. We have to ask ourselves, are those seats high quality seats that are going to lead to sustainable wages, fulfilling careers, and a thriving, fulfilling life? When I say high quality, what do I mean? Do I mean a seat at an institution of higher education that is high ranking in U.S. News and well reported? Do I mean a seat at an institution of higher education that has high name notoriety? No. I mean a seat at an institution of higher education that is able to provide for the differentiated needs of our kids. How can we get our students to understand what those needs are? First, we have to look at each kid holistically. There are 4 buckets on this screen. If a student utilizes these 4 buckets as they're doing college research, they're going to be much more likely to find the right post-secondary pathway for them, the best fit for them. Let's pull back the layers on these. Personal fit. When I was researching college back in the day, this wasn't a thing really. It was more about if you have the SAT and GPA is an academic match mostly. But from a personal fit perspective, students should be asking, what type of mental health supports are at this particular campus? What type of post-secondary degree programs are here? What's the culture and climate? What does it feel like on this campus? When a student identifies the post-secondary pathway that they want to select, at what point of their college research do they really figure out what a day in the life of that career feels like? There's only so much we can do in high school. I realize that. But the questions are, when do they figure out what it's like to be what you're aspiring to be? In Houston, underwater welding is a big draw for kids down there. They know the job description. They know how much they're going to get paid. But at what point do they figure out what it feels like to be underwater? At what point do they figure out the dangers of that career? When do they figure out what the water smells like that they're going to be working around? Those are questions that we need to be asking, and our students need to be asking. Academic match. SAT, ACT, GPA, selectivity. At what point do our students figure out the implications associated with selectivity? If it's the senior year, as we know, that's way too late. There's no wiggle room. Completion supports. Students should be asking about the URM grad rate at institutions that they're looking at. They should be asking, why is it this high? Why is it this low? What type of education opportunity programs are in place to help me persist and complete my post-secondary pathway at this institution? And financial fit. Students that I work with a lot are focused on tuition and room and board, but the thing that's causing them not to persist is living expenses. That part is what we can do realistically in real time to help with persistence. And not from a yearly or semester perspective, but from a weekly perspective of what is really going to look like for you to live where you're going. These are things that we should be helping our students with during school. If we take all of these things into consideration, a student is going to be much more likely and motivated to select the right post-secondary pathway, and they're going to be much more motivated to complete that post-secondary pathway because the seat that they're sitting in is going to be the right seat for them. It's a lot of hard work, focusing on trying to figure out what the best fit is for a student, and in addition to that, trying to help a student figure out if they're going to be able to afford the post-secondary pathway that they've selected. It takes more than 38 minutes. If we don't have this done already, we have to ensure that we are incorporating post-secondary readiness into the rubric for success in the secondary system. Again, my name is Kelsey Griffin, and I want to thank Timmy Creekwood and the entire Commit Partnership for inviting me to come and speak with you. I want to share my contact information. If you scan the QR code, I would love to talk to you about any type of post-secondary readiness opportunities. Today, and actually there's a breakout session after this that we'll be leading. Today, we talked about a problem. We started a conversation. I invite you to continue that conversation through your lunch break and into the breakout sessions. I invite you to continue that conversation through your summer PLTs or PLCs and into the fall semester and the spring semester. One person cannot close the degree divide. One school cannot fix the degree divide. One state, even the great state of Texas, cannot fix the degree divide by themselves. But when we work collectively, we can make great gains in closing the degree divide. Thank you.